Hello everybody, it's Max with Crypto Talk now. When you hear the likes of Swift, a lot of times people basically draw that connection to XRP, XLM, especially when it comes to crypto, right? We're talking about that particular old system with the cross-border payments. But if anything, you have to recognize the significance of just that. Swift basically interconnected the world 40,000 plus banks. Well, how about this for size? The Quant connection. Why that matters. On top of that, have some Nexi group news I found as though is really significant in regards to the adoption that we need to have when it comes to having all this blast off with Quant. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's Quant coverage. As you can see right here, I'm going to give a shout out to this guy once again. I'm going to full screen it too. And that is basically Greg Lunt. Greg Lunt does a really good job, just like Quant Papa and so on. Quanto is another great quant content creator. But they provide these great updates from crypto Twitter. So Greg Lunt posts breaking. Nexi Group partners with Olivity Online, a technology manufacturer holding a significant share of the Italian cash register market. Now, looking from the outside in, you may think to yourself, well, Max, I mean, a lot of these updates come out. I don't understand what the big deal is. Get to that. Because Nexi's digital payment solutions will enrich Olivity's cash systems and accelerate the spread of electronic payments. We want an acceleration of electronic payments. That's how we get mass adoption. Always talking about the adoption of crypto. You need mass adoption. So, as you can see right here, this of course comes straight from Reuters. As Italy's Nexi signs a digital payments deal with EIM's Olivity. This was back on December 27th, just a few days ago, right? Straight from Milan, Italy. Nexi and Telecom Italy's Olivity have teamed up to provide advanced electronic payment solutions to businesses, the company said on Tuesday. Under the accord, Nexi's payment systems will be built into Olivity's cash registers, they said in a joint statement, with the companies also planning to develop and sell integrated tax and payment solutions for retailers. Now, why does this matter? Matters because the Quant connection. So I'm gonna blow this up as well. It states Nexi was already processing, listen to this, 76% of Italy's in-store mobile transactions. That's nothing to bat an eye at. And this partnership further solidifies their nationwide dominance. These transactions will ultimately use Quant as assets. Yeah, Quant as assets, and currencies migrate to digital systems and require what? Interoperability. How do we know that? Well, posted back on the 23rd, for instance, shout out to Greg Lunt with the killer coverage. He pointed out that the European Union's number one paytech, which was Nexi Group, processed 76% of in-store mobile transactions for all of Italy in the first half of 2022. Yeah, jaw-dropping moment. Over time, Quant is positioned to capture this transaction volume as Nexi's distributed ledger technology interoperability provider. Wow. Of course, when we look more into it, I get into the nitty-gritty, some key highlights. So, back on October 18th, 2022, it was reported that Nexi recorded a 185% increase in store smartphone transactions in Italy. On top of that, in the first half of 2022, the Paytech processed 76%, like we mentioned, all in-store mobile transactions in Italy. Really impressive. Now, to pound it home that much more, like Greg Lunt has specified right here, just a few days ago, there's no reason to anticipate Nexi's growth slowing down anytime soon. This is one of the main key takeaways I want you guys to see. The company's onslaught of European payment systems in 2022 was nothing short of legendary. Nothing short of legendary. And again, we already have established that quant connection. Really impressive. Top of that, did you know that in the past 6 months, Nexi Group has partnered with and acquired or launched major point of sale systems in Italy, Germany, Denmark, Ireland, Croatia, and even Greece. A truly dominant force in the European Union paytech. No wonder Microsoft and ECB have jumped on board. Guess what? Like we mentioned before, Nexi uses Quant. And those are some big players that are part of this. You see the particular articles. Nexi, the Italian payments giant, buys Germany's Orderbird for 140 to 150 million to expand SMB strategy. This happened back on May 12th of 2022. By the way, that's my birthday. You see the particular articles. You see the particular pictures. Nexi to buy PBZ's card merchant acquiring business in Croatia for 180 million euros. That happened back in what? June 17th. Like it mentions, a truly dominant force in EU paytech. Really, really impressive. There's a little bit more in regards to this. RatePay, part of Nexi Group, enters payment partnership with PayPal. I use PayPal all the time. This happened back in March. You draw an outline, for instance, of why this is so significant. Again, that mass adoption, that's what we're all looking for. Does your crypto provide these type of real world solutions? And if not, why are you into these particular ones? Based on hopium? Was it based on a promise of the future for it to go to the moon? All right, a little bit more in regards to our particular coverage. And shout out to another great content creator. He's been on our show in the comments. Shout out to Quanto Ronto. Getting some of the Twitter or crypto Twitter quant editor all-star team here, basically. It says, we will enter 2023 with around 110,000 quant holders. Snowball effect, excuse me. Can it bring quant to 1 million holders by 2025? Or even more, right? Now, here's an interesting fact. When Bitcoin first hit 1 million holders, the price was 9,500. Really, really significant. Top of that, it wouldn't have been a proper quant video without having Quant Papa to provide us a particular clip. Now, this is one of the key things I want to mention to you guys, and I am going to come back into the frame just for a brief moment. I want to really pound this home, and that is this. You heard countless times of, for instance, XRP, XLM, for instance, replacing, XRP is going to replace Swift. It's not that Swift is going to be replaced. If anything, Swift is going to upgrade. Now, it's not like a bunch of people all of a sudden just lost their jobs and they're just going to go, retire into the sunset because there's a new technology out there. I just want to state that because a lot of times, let's face it, people say Swift is being replaced. Well, more like upgraded. Think about this. So much talk about XRP, XLM, and so on with that Swift connection. Well, Quant is there with that Swift connection. And this is not me just, being, basing everything off of speculation. I actually had a solid proof here. And again, shout out to Quant Papa for taking these particular highlights and producing them. So if anything, you're going to hear Gilbert Verdian. And then from there, I'm going to show you guys some basic math that's going to blow you away, to say the least. And that even doesn't even get into all of what Quant is connected to and so on. This just scratches the surface, hits the tip of the ice. So I'm going to pull this back. We're going to listen to this. This is about 1 minute, roughly, 1:03. Then we'll come back for some more comments. Here we go.
We've got one, just more people to invite. We've been meeting a lot of the banks and institutions. So one of the ones that was interested was Swift. So if we like to discuss new people joining as one of the items.
Last week, we announced the results of groundbreaking experiments So we at Quant have done an implementation of this in the last few weeks.
In that field, that show essentially that CBDC DLT networks can be interlinked.
In this case, they are two completely different DLT type systems.
And not just with each other all over the world, but also with existing payment systems.
They could be traditional systems as well.
And what this means is that as CBDCs will be rolled out, they can automatically, immediately scale and be used globally.
SWIFT is an organization that represents pretty much all of the world banks. About 40,000 banks own SWIFT, and it's the network that interconnects all of them.
SWIFT is the one that interconnects banks, about 40,000 of them, right? Now think about the new era that we're in when it comes to all this, the Quant connection, okay? So with that said, think about what Martin Hargreaves of Quant just basically mentioned. 40,000 banks, probably a little over 40,000, okay? And basically they interconnect all of them, all right? We're going from the old system of SWIFT, dating back to the 1970s, to the new technologies of distributed ledger technology, like the Quant, what they provide with the over ledger, ISO 222, you name it, right? The whole 9 yards, right? So with that said, I decided to take more of a deeper dive into it because you guys should know me by now. Some of you don't, it's all right. By the way, welcome. This is your first time watching. It says the top 10 biggest U.S. banks by assets in 2022 was, of course, taken back in January 2nd of 2022. But this helps pound it home that much more in regards to the outline for you for the particular research. It says J.P. Morgan Chase is the top largest bank in the U.S. with a balance sheet of, listen to that, 2.87 trillion, of course, at the time of this. Now, let's face it, the market has been way down and so on. So, based off the market going down and J.P. Morgan probably not being worth as much as so on, I am not going to mention all of these particular banks. I'm not even going to do 10, right? We talk about 40,000. There's no way to do 40,000, right? But in reality, I won't even do the 10 listed here. For the purposes of this video, I will do 5. So it's going to be JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and US Bancorp, right? Now, with that said, I've taken these figures, I've taken it over to this site, which, as a teacher, I've used it before because it shows you all the numbers, and it's really good to use. So, for instance, you have the 2.87 trillion from JP Morgan. Just to kind of show you, I might flip it back. So here it is, 2.87 trillion. That is what this looks like in numbers, right? Then the 2.16 trillion, right, from Bank of America is basically right here. And then 1.75 trillion from Wells Fargo. And then we have, for instance, the 1.65 trillion from Citigroup, and then we have the 530 billion from US Bancorp. Now the total comes out, of course, to be what? 896 trillion, right? So because we know that when it comes to 9 zeros and a number in front of it, that's a billion. So a billion, that's 60 billion, 96 billion, and then that's 8.9 trillion. Excuse me. Too much on that particular one. But either way, the math adds up. Now, we take this particular figure, take it over here. All right? So when you take, for instance, that particular number, and you just times it by 10%, right? This means that basically Quant brings in 10% off of those top 5 banks that we just outlined. It doesn't even count the 40,000. This is when you wrap your head around that, and then you see where I'm going with this, right? That doesn't even count. For instance, some of the other things that Quant brings to Web3 and so on. I'm just trying to give people a perspective because some people think I'm crazy when it comes to these astronomical, amounts of what market cap Quant's going to get to in the future. They can't wrap their head around it because they've never seen anything like that. So just take that particular figure, right, and you times it by just 10%. Just 10% of those. That doesn't even count. We're not even doing the top 20, top 50, top 100,000, let alone the 40,000. And you get this particular figure right here. And it's really, really impressive. Because if anything, look at this. This is something else. So let's see, 3 zeros, 6 zeros, 9 zeros. This would be 6 billion, 96 billion. And for instance, you have 896 what? $billion, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Let me just double check that. So 3, 6, 9. Yep. So that's just a little short of $1 trillion. Okay. This is how or why I mention these crazy market caps. So when people want to come back at me and say, Max, you're just coming up with like, you have that thumbnail. It's just nothing but clickbait, and you're just pulling this out of thin air. Am I really pulling it out of thin air, or am I not even scratching the surface, for crying out loud? Yeah, exactly. That's the way I feel about it too. So with that said, everybody, I hope this gives you an idea of what we're going to see in the future. Again, that was just lowballing, right? But if anything, I am super excited about Quant for the future. And I think you guys are too. There's always going to be the negative side of it, the harsh criticism, the Bitcoin maxis of the world, and so on. Know what you hold, know why you hold it. You've done your research. Continue the course. If I don't see you, for instance, because you're just, busy and so on because of the New Year's holiday coming up, right, this weekend, I really wish you all a very, very happy New Year. I'm looking really forward to 2020. So if you enjoy content like this, like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching. May you all have a blessed day and a great new year. We will see you on the next one.